Hey everyone, Rip City Real Talk back. Another weekly recap for y'all. Craig Moshkow, Anthony Blaylock, your host. Fun week. It wasn't fun to start. Ended more fun than it started off. Your update is we are 5-5 and we are 8th in the West. This week we are going to recap the games from last Sunday to this Sunday. So the Philly game through the Laker game. What's our motto, Craig?
Go 500 or better.
500 or better. I thought it's a good week. So far, it's playoff caliber as far as the team still learning a new system and being early. So we lose the first two. We win the last two. We go 500 or better. Lots to talk about. Kind of in each game, we're going to break down what we noticed, some of the trends that we saw, and we're going to cover new blazing trails as always. And then some big news that was obviously released. Most of you probably already know it, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So start right into it, man. Philly team, we lost 103-113.
The most disappointing thing is who we were playing against in that game. I mean, Embiid, Harris goes out right before the game, so they have very little time to sort of pick up the pieces there. And obviously Ben Simmons is not playing. It's kind of shocking that the Blazers went into Philadelphia and laid an egg. I get that it was a long East Coast road trip, and I understand that you were nearing the end of that road trip, but it was kind of disappointing to see what the level we played at that 4 p.m. Pacific time game.
Yeah, that's an opportunity missed. I don't care about a new system, a new coach, all that good stuff. That's an opportunity missed, man. We look at some of the schedules and teams that we're going to be playing upcoming, etc. This is a top team in the East, a team that I think was actually leading the East going into the game.
Yeah, they were two.
So they were number one. And when you're talking about Embiid's resting, they're just resting him for maintenance. Harris gets the illness, right before the game, non-COVID related. And then obviously the Ben Simmons drama, which I'm sure we've covered plenty of times throughout the year as a Blazer fan. To go in there and to just not be able to come up with the victory is rough. And really, Dame didn't play bad. I mean, He ended up with, I think, 20 points, 7 rebounds, and 10 assists. So he almost actually had a triple-double. He's only 2 of 9 from 3, which isn't amazing, but it's not overly detrimental, not considering what he's been doing. Simons came in, had 17 points off the bench. So really everybody did all right. I kind of feel for me, the biggest problem was Nurk, quite frankly. He didn't look good, and he hasn't looked good this entire road trip, and quite frankly, even some of the games at home.
Yeah.
But Nurk only got 7 points. They didn't have Embiid to deal with. I mean, he wasn't really handling any kind of a major threat down low, and he wasn't able to be productive with the minutes that he got, in my opinion. So kind of an issue there. Did you notice anything that really stood out to you in this particular game?
Not really. I mean, when you allow Furkan Korkmaz and Georges Niang to beat you, you're in trouble. I mean, Powell has been a rock every single game. He's came in, he's giving us somewhere around like 19 to 22 per game. He's shooting pretty well. He's not doing a ton defensively, but he's not killing you on that end of the floor either. Nurkic's inconsistency, night in and night out, are really something that this team kind of struggles with. I feel like if he comes in, he's not a tone setter that night, and he's not setting good screens, he's not rolling hard, and he's not finishing around the rim, it exposes the Blazers a lot. And there's not a lot of room for error right now because Dame has not been playing very well. So the room for error is minimal. I don't have a ton, but it's like, how does Andre Drummond win a low post battle against Nurkic consistently all night long? I think that was probably the key of the game for me.
Yeah. I mean, Andre Drummond darn near had a triple-double himself. He got, 14 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists. That you can't do that. Like, he's nowhere near as good as Embiid, obviously. Embiid's an MVP candidate every year. I mean, it's not like Drummond is some slum. Like, he's been good and productive throughout his career. And I don't mind the points and rebounds because that's what he does. Like, you're going to give that up. But the 7 assists tells you that he was able to move the ball way too easily. In that game specifically, they made 43 baskets, and they had 34 assists.
Unreal.
You can't be giving that up.
With no good, I'm sorry to say this, like, their best players were out. And the Blazers are completely healthy at this point. Like, what's the excuse for letting this team score 113 on you down their 3 best players? Like, that's not good.
No, there's really no excuse. I mean, we had 15 turnovers. So again, turnovers continue to plague this team. And I kind of feel like it's going to for a while. Of course, you're learning a new system that really involves more ball movement. So you're going to have guys trying to make passes that maybe they don't normally try to make. You're trying to squeeze away a little bit more of the the ISO ball. You see Dame's assist numbers are up, even if maybe it affects his scoring a little bit.
Yeah.
So you're gonna see turnovers, guys trying to get that ball down to Nurk or another pass that maybe they don't make the extra pass or they shouldn't have made the extra pass and it gets deflected or it ends up being a bad shot and what have you. But the turnovers got to stop. They got to become something that we focus on early as you become a movement-based offense with a lot more of the passing. So 15 turnovers, not cool. But the assists that they got, I mean, when they moved the ball around a ton, that's ridiculous. 43 baskets made and 34 assists. You got to be able to slow that down, especially when you don't have any distributors out there. No Simmons, no true point guard, really, that should have come in there and beat you.
Exactly. There's no one to facilitate an offense, so how did you allow them 113? And how did you only score? I mean, you shot 35% from three. You're not going to win very many games if you're the Blazers.
We haven't, actually.
30. I think you tracked it through those games, right?
Yep. In fact, ironically, we'll get into the Laker game. The Laker game is the first game that we've won where we shot under the 40.
Yeah, that sounds right. So. Well, let's go on to Indiana, man.
Well, I'm not going to go to Indiana because we have the Cavs first.
Sorry.
Probably talk about Cleveland. Yeah, I know. Well, they don't have LeBron anymore, so you probably forgot all about them. I get it.
Oh, yeah, no, I forgot. Cleveland was up next.
Another sad loss. This was the second night of a back-to-back, and it was on the road trip. So, again, they're a team that you shouldn't lose to. They were not shooting good coming in as a team. Nobody was hitting threes coming into this game, and then all of a sudden, everybody was hitting threes. They shot 50% from the three-point line. 50%. Yeah, I don't want to blow your mind.
Only took 30, I guess, but still.
Garland, I think, hit 5 of them himself. It was not good, but they're a cool team because I don't want to say a cool team, but a team that's fun for the Blazers to watch because they consider themselves a model after the Blazers. You talk to their players and even some of their coaching with Sexton and Garland, they're really trying to duplicate what they think that Dame and CJ are. There's really two smaller combo guards, not really a true shooting guard, probably not a true point guard. And they come out and they can just score a bunch of points. And they're young. Sexton and Garland are both young, but they both did good. I mean, I think they got like 19 and 20 points, something around there for them.
21.
So that was good. Powell continues to score. I think he had 23 in this game. So he's looked really, really, really good. And he took advantage of really no true small forwards on that team. I don't even remember who they put out there, but it was nobody. Wade. Yeah, Chetty Osman, Wade, I think Desmond Wade. I'm not positive on his name, but usually they have Lauri Markkanen. So kind of got a break there, in my opinion. They're the tallest team as far as average footage goes, something like that, when they have their normal starters. So with no Lauri Markkanen and no Kevin Love in the game, that should have helped us. I mean, Jared Allen's no schlum.
No, he had a great game.
A very good rookie in Mobley. He looks great. But still, a team that you probably should have been able to handle. Their guards are not good defensive guards. CJ and Dame should have had a field day.
And they didn't.
This is Dame, I think, shot 3 of 12.
I mean, they scored 26 and 21. So, okay, here's what I have on this game, right? So it's on the end. It's a back-to-back, so it's going to be a tough game. No Kevin Love and all that, and Lauri Markkanen, and that is 2 of their better players, right? But here's how the end of the game sequence goes, right? And Dame was kind of struggling this game to get it going. I know he scored 21 or whatever, but he still was really struggling. Or no, 26 in this game. But he was really struggling. And then at the end of the game, so he's gonna ISO, right? And he ISOs up and he drives down, and Jarrett Allen meets him at the rim and blocks him. And then the next possession, he gets the ball. He goes down on Mobley. Now, Mobley's 7 feet tall, but he can run out to the perimeter. So he one-on-ones Dame. Now, in the past, Dame has beat 7 feet guys like Lauri Markkanen sometimes if they're a little slower. But when you have 2 guys who are 7 feet that can protect the rim and also guard all the way out to the perimeter, Jared Allen's a little slower, but Mobley's just a beast. When you can put them on a 6'3" guard like Dame, it's going to be really hard for him to get a hero shot off, and he struggled really mightily and took a crazy step back that he might make. I don't know. But it's just – I tweeted it after the game. When you have guys that are that big that can athletically pressure all the way out to the perimeter, it's going to make the game really hard on our guards. And that's just something Portland doesn't really have. Nurkic is too slow. Larry Nance and Robert Covington can irritate a little bit in one-on-one, but they're not 7 feet tall, and they don't have a wingspan like Mobley does. So I honestly think that length and athleticism were a huge factor in that game, especially in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and speaking of the fourth quarter, this is the game that I don't know, people, I don't know if you noticed, if people noticed, but there were 3 possessions in a row where they tried to get the ball to Nurk going into the late fourth quarter. 2 where he was attacking the rim, so he went off the pick and roll and was going towards the rim, and they tried to throw to him, and 1 where he ended up down below by himself. All 3 times he fumbled the ball, and it was a turnover. And that was a big deal in this game because they got 31 points off turnovers. I mean, they were just a feeding frenzy. We turned it over, and they go down and hit a 3. I mean, that's one of the reasons they shot 50% is a lot of it was in transition, uncontested threes, and they were just nailing them left and right. So Nurk, his defense wasn't good. Jarrett Allen just crushed him down low. He could not do anything as soon as and that's what Jarrett Allen does. He's one of the top people in the league when it comes to field goal percentage. The dude scores in the paint. Yep. You get that ball within 5 feet of that rim, I mean, he's probably going to score. It's hard to stop regardless. But those are the kind of situations where you have a weight advantage, and Nurk really needs to be able to body these guys and slow them down. Because if Jarrett Allen's going to put up 24 points on you, I mean,
17 rebounds too.
Yeah, if that's going to happen against a guy like Jarrett Allen, I mean, it's going to be really. What are you going to do against Jokic? You know what I mean? What are you going to do against a Rudy Gobert? What are you going to do against some of these top centers in the West? It's going to get tough for him. And I need to see better defense out of him in regards to that.
Like, exactly. And defensively, he didn't bring very much that game. They shot 52% from the field.
In the field overall.
That's ridiculous against it. I mean, obviously, they're probably going to shoot a decent field goal percentage, but when they shoot 50% from 3, you know that something happened with your defense where it was pretty atrocious. I mean, we only gave up 107, but still.
Yeah. That and the bench was poor in this game, and that really killed us. Only 2 people scored. 2 people scored on their bench. Simons got 15 and Zeller got 7. But nobody else on the bench was able to get any points on. That's
Larry Nance looked
yeah, it's his old team.
Yeah, we'll talk about him in the next couple of games, but I mean, he just looked kind of lost sometimes on this road trip. He really did.
Yeah, and it just seems to be a bit of a trend early on. The turnovers are still kind of a factor here.
Yeah.
But it wasn't all bad. I mean, this is when we only lost by 3 points. We had multiple chances in the end there. Dame really didn't play bad. Powell's been killing it. He looked great. Simons is continuing to play really well. I think those turnovers at the end of the game, honestly, are what killed us. The 3 Nurk turnovers where he couldn't handle the ball.
Is this the game where Ant got tackled and they didn't call the foul, or was that the Indiana game? I can't remember.
I believe it was this game because Garland did the foul where where Simons passed the ball to Dame.
Yes.
Then he got ran over and Dame was lobbing it back up to go to Simons. They didn't call it. And it was a turnover.
Yeah, and so that happened, and I think it was a 1 or 2 possession ball game at that point. Dame missed a couple. I mean, he took a good layup, a good look at a drive, and then missed a hero shot. So, like you said, there was multiple chances to win this game. It's just disappointing that you're the veteran team that's supposed to be able to flip the switch, and they didn't do it. They were unable to execute in that situation. So,
too many turnovers trying to force the ball to Nurk. Dame shooting 3 of 12 from 3 again is not helping you, especially late in the game. He's looked out of it.
Yeah,
it's cost us a couple of games now because I really think this team would be a lot better if Dame's shooting wasn't off. Of course it would be, right? I mean, a couple of these games, it's not going to matter if he hits 2 or 3 more threes. But a lot of these close games, really, if Dame is shooting better, not missing when he shoots double-digit threes, we're talking about completely different outcomes. So that's a little rough to see. But that was it. I mean, that was the road trip. We lost to Charlotte. We lost to Philly. We lose to the Cavs. We come home. Okay, we come home. Where we are currently, I believe, 4-1 on the year. Outside of the Kings loss.
Yeah.
We come home, we get a win that really should have been a lot easier than it ended up being, but we beat the Pacers 106-110. There it is on the screen. So that's good to see. And this is a team I always like to play because I like Sabonis. I think Sabonis is one of the best bigs in the league, and he has obviously some roots to home. Avitas Sabonis played with us from 95 to 2002. Hall of Famer, big-time player when it comes to Portland lineage. So cool to see his kid whenever his kid comes to town. Always happy to see it.
Yeah, this was a great game. I like the Pacers matchup because I am just a Miles Turner fan. I think that he would be
Oh,
fantastic.
gosh.
I love, he didn't play. Okay, so the game before he played the Blazers, he had hit 7 threes and dropped 25 points, and I was kind of fearful that he was going to do that against us. He didn't really get hot. Sabonis had moments where he got hot, but I think that we actually did a pretty good job defending him. He only got, if you look at 15, 4, and 12, that's a pretty good line for 36 minutes, but I thought Duarte could have shot a heck of a lot better than he did. So the Blazers defense was actually pretty serviceable in this game. Covington got really hot through stretches and hit some threes that were just out of his mind. And then Powell has, like I said, he's been rock solid. His competitiveness, Norman Powell's competitiveness is what I wish Nurkic had night in and night out. Nurk talks a big game, but Norm comes in here and delivers every single night. And that's kind of what I look for from him. So it was a great game.
Yeah, when you hold Turner to 16 and Sabonis to 15, that's good stuff. And quite frankly, this is the first All-Star that we played this week. And we obviously played Anthony Davis for a minute and Russell Westbrook and the Lakers, and we'll talk about that in a sec. But, Sabonis was the first legitimate player on this entire trip, the road trip, and then coming home. So the week so far that we've played against as far as All-Star lineage, because remember, Kevin Love didn't play, and obviously Philly didn't play any of their guys.
Nope.
So to come in here and, to be able to handle that for the first time was great, because we struggled against teams that we probably should have beat. And this is a team that could honestly go both ways. They have a lot of good talent. LeVert played. They have a lot of guys on this team that really scare you. Now, they didn't have Brogdon. He didn't go out there and play. So that was kind of a breath of fresh air. Although his replacement, McConnell, was just on fire. I think he actually led them in scoring at 19. But my goodness, the guy couldn't miss to start. I think he went 9-9 to start the game or something. It was crazy.
Yeah, he's one of those mid-range assassins who kind of picks you apart. The other one is LeVert. I always hate playing against Karis.
He crushes us.
Every time. There's no reason for it. He's not that. He's good. Don't get me wrong. But we make him look like an all-star a lot. And I thought that's what we were going to do with the front court. But like you said, Rocco, I thought, Nurkic's defense at times has been spotty, but in this game it was really good. And, he can be a little bit slow when it comes to back to the basket stuff and guarding guys like Sabonis, but he played great defense that night. So you got to give him credit.
Yeah. And one of the killers, I'm glad we won, but I don't know if people know this, but Damian Lillard tied his career low in scoring with 4 points. He was 0 of 6 from 3, so the 3-point woes continued for him, but 4 points for Lillard.
I honestly, and we talked about it last week. I was really not concerned with Dame's shooting slump. I thought it was just a slow start to the year. They came out and a couple people made comments about the basketball being kind of a different ball. Okay, fine, whatever. This was the first time I was actually panicking about Dame. Like, this is actually a thing where he's only scored 4 points in a game he played the entirety of. That really scares me. And so it was good. It was good we won, but yeah, I was on panic mode.
It's a little rough. Because we had a 16-point lead. We still handled it and won by 4, but it's great to see other guys stepping up. It's good to see Simons continuing to do Simon stuff. But yeah, Dame shooting 4 points, that should be concerning for all Blazers fans, because you can't continue to have that now. Obviously, we're going to get to the Laker game in a sec, and everything is bright and shiny and everything's okay, and Dame looked great. But that's a game, and a close game at home, that you just can't have him scoring 4 points. I don't care what kind of a slump you're in. I don't care if you're even injured. If you're injured, then you shouldn't be playing or taking certain shots, and he's continuing to do that. So, thank goodness for CJ and everybody else playing the way they are. Like you said, we got pretty lucky too. I don't think they were super impressive from 3. Duarte, who really I thought was going to light us up. He's just an awesome rookie. Again, we had 2 of the best rookies in the league so far this year. We had to go up against Duarte and Mobley have probably, in my opinion, been candidates for Rookie of the Year, since some of the other guys that were higher picks haven't really done much. So to be able to slow him down a little bit was awesome. I know he got hampered and kind of banged up, which helped us at the end of that game because they didn't end up using him.
Well, so there's been times where the Blazers, earlier in the season, we stopped Ja Morant and held him to 17 when he was averaging 30 going into that game. And then the Pacers are coming in, and we held a lot of their guys to under their averages as far as points scored. So it's like sometimes the Blazer defense comes in and lights it up and they play really well. This week we threw some zones out there that I've never seen us do a lot of. It didn't work a lot, but Chauncey tried some new stuff. And that's what we asked for, right? even if it doesn't work, you have to try new things. And a lot of times new things don't work the first or second or third time you use them in the NBA, because you have to learn as well as your competition has to learn. So I liked it. I mean, I thought this was one of the better games I saw the Blazers play, other than Dame just being cold as ice.
Yeah, and it's nice to see us win a close game, because that's one thing we haven't done. I mean, the Cavs and the Kings are probably the two closest games so far that we've had. Both games decided by 3. So, to come into a close game, we finally saw this team pull off a victory, which is a big step. It's a big step for Chauncey, because we need to see how we adjusted. They used a lot of zone on us, and we were kind of figuring out how to attack it, and we were able to do just enough. So solid. I mean, that's good. And that's the kind of stuff that, as you're young, as far as system goes, a new head coach, as a team kind of figuring things out, you need to start getting these kinds of wins to build that confidence up, because so far it's been blowouts one way or the other, and then 2 close losses. So good to see. That's a big deal.
You got any more notes? You want to do Lakers?
The Lakers, right? Beat LA, always. And we did.
Just to preface this, no LeBron. He was announced out 2 days before with the abdomen injury. And then Davis, I don't know, what did he play for?
Stomach illness.
Stomach illness?
He got a stomach illness about 7 minutes into the game, so he sat. So I think he got the 2 points. Yeah, so he's already been battling a finger. He's had some other issues that's been kind of hampering him, but he was going to play. Okay. He had a stomach illness, and he just got taken out of the game. So a big blow to them, obviously, with no Davis, no LeBron, and it showed, because they then had to rely on Russell Westbrook, who, no matter what team he plays on, no matter where he is, he hates the Blazers. He just hates them. He just absolutely doesn't like them. He shot 1 of 13 for 8 points in a game where he really needed to step up and play some hero ball for them. He absolutely let them down. I mean, the final score, we won by 15, but really we had a 34-point lead, a lot of garbage time minutes. They kind of crept back in at the end, but again, nothing you had to fear or worry about, because they just couldn't put any pressure on you. Outside of Westbrook, they have no scoring. Malik Monk can score. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. Bazemore throughout his career has been known as an okay shooter. And, of course, they had Carmelo, who, did Carmelo stuff. He did all right. He had 12 points. So pretty much what he's been doing for us the last couple of years, he's been doing with them. He's actually been super hot of late. He's actually been scoring really well for them, hitting a ton of threes in LA and actually putting up some defensive stats as well. So Carmelo really hasn't been playing bad with the Lakers. But again, if that's your second best scorer, him and Malik Monk probably outside of Westbrook, it's not going to end well for the Lakers in any situation, and we were able to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and then I'm actually shocked. So you brought it up earlier, so I had to check. We shot 27% from 3 and 1 a game.
First game all year that we shot under 40%. 40% has been the magic number. Any game that we've shot in the 30s, we have lost. So the first game that we were able to shoot, not very good from 3, and win was great. And it's ironic. It's ironic because it's actually the best game for Dame all year. Dame hit 6 threes. So Dame actually, he had his best scoring night, his best shooting night of the season so far. On our team-wise worst three-point shooting. And all that had to do with CJ. He went 1 of 10 from 3. He only scored 7 points. So kind of weird to see CJ just take a complete dive. Just terrible after the way he's been playing. He's been playing really good, 25 points a game. So to see him just do absolutely terrible and see Dame really step up.
Weird.
Polar opposite from the Indy game, right? He's 4 points. He's ice cold. It's like, what's going on with Dame? To flip the script here, and Dame's looking like his normal Dame self, hitting clutch threes, keeping the lead. Maybe it's Westbrook. I don't know. He hates the guy. He'll say he doesn't hate the guy, but he hates the guy.
He does.
So I think there's something about playing Westbrook. Like, I don't care if Dame has, all sorts of illnesses and friggin' injuries. He's going to come out and play Westbrook like that, and always does. So, congrats on the team. Nurk looked amazing. I believe he had one of his better games. They had no Anthony Davis, so their only bigs were DeAndre Jordan and Dwight Howard, so a combined age of like 70.
Jesus.
So you'd expect Nurk to have a good game in this situation. And he came out
up, though. 15 and 17. That's a great
15 and 17, yep. So
super solid.
You take advantage of a team that doesn't hate. It's what he should have been doing against, honestly, teams like Philly and the Cavs and Indy both have good bigs, but this is the kind of situation offensively that I expect Nurk to step up and be able to get more scoring done, and he did. So happy to see that.
Yeah, I think it was this game or it might have been the Indy game. I'm not sure which. They had Nurkic not play a lot in the first half, and Larry Nance was running a lot of screens for Dame and pick and roll, and they kind of got a little thing going. Like it took a little bit. It's not going to show up in the stat sheet at all, but these last 2 home games are the first time I've seen Larry Nance look comfortable on both ends of the floor for Portland this whole season. That's something that I would shout out. The other thing is Anthony Simons only dropped 10 in this game, but this week and the last week and a half have been really good for Ant. Every time he's in the game, he's making plays. He looks like he could be one of the best. He's definitely the best shooter whenever he's on the floor other than Dame, but he looks like he could be one of the best offensive players. He looks good, and he made some crazy flashing defensive plays this week. Like he blocked some guys. He looks good, and it's not showing up in the stat sheet, but Anthony Simons is leveling up right in front of our eyes.
Yeah, I mean Little's been playing great, but Anthony Simons is
Yes.
We talked about both of them coming into the year and that they were both going to play big minutes off the bench. And I think in our podcast with Dave, we talked about how Anthony's going to perform, and this is exactly what we wanted to see because it's not just shooting. I mean, he is shooting lights out. He's shooting great from the 3, which is what he did last year. I mean, that's what he does well. But the thing that both you and me talked about, we really wanted to see this year was him attacking the rim more. And even though he's not necessarily getting to the rim and he's not necessarily drawing fouls, he's still doing all these crazy hook shots and, things,
good
floaters and attacking the rim and getting to a different spot. More of a mid-range game is starting to develop and kind of finding what he wants to do. And he's attacking differently than he has in the past. The confidence is there. When you shoot 13, 14 points a game and you're doing lights out from 3 as well, you're going to build that confidence. And I'm glad that you actually talked about Larry Nance because Larry Nance and Amp are really starting to develop a relationship on the court. He's starting to be able to find Amp and know exactly where he wants to be and getting passes to him that are allowing Amp to really do things that he hasn't been able to do before because he didn't really have anybody to pass him the ball. He's able to move around off ball a lot more than just playing point guard. And you're starting to see him find more lanes because of that and cutting a little bit more. And it's been probably one of the best things to see early on in this team because our bench, it really hasn't been our problem, where last year our bench was absolutely our problem.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to shot distribution and shot equity, right? Carmelo Anthony's not going to be out there taking a bunch of your shots. So you kind of need to be shot hunting if you're Anthony Simons, and there's not a lot of offensive creators in the second unit. You're going to be out there with guys like Nance and Zeller, and that you're not going to have Dame or CJ they're going to need to lay off a little bit. So it's been good to see him attack more. And like you said, he's not getting to the rim or drawing a lot of fouls, but he is creating a gravitational pull to the center of the court. He's able to pass out of that. He's just doing things that he wasn't able to do last year.
Agreed. So, I mean, that's all I have on the Laker game. We had the 14 steals, which I believe was a season high for us. So that's another big deal when you're playing against a team that doesn't have a lot of players and they're trying to figure things out and figure out who's going to score and who's going to help them. They're making a lot of bad passes, and to be able to read that and control that game with the turnovers was great. So that's all I have in the Lakers game. So quite frankly, that's the recap on the games. I have a bunch of other stuff to talk about for the week. But before we get into that, a quick one this week really is, but it is our favorite segment. It is Blazing New Trails Player of the Week. A fun one. We played him this week. So for those of you who don't know, Seth Curry is the guy for the week. Good old Seth. Yep, there he is, nice and small. But that's him. Played with us in 2018, 2019. Yes, it is Steph Curry's brother. Again, I don't know how many people know who Seth Curry is, but you should. He was absolutely pivotal for us in the finals run that we made. Well, the Western Conference Finals run that we made. Probably one of the better 3-and-D guards in the league, in my opinion. The dude is scrappy. He doesn't have a lot of defensive stats, but he's absolutely scrappy. He's able to lock down guards and slow things down, and he's probably one of the best three-point shooters in the league. He does play for Philadelphia now. He's averaging about 17 points a game, shooting 60% from the field for a guard that's unheard of, and majority of those are threes. That obviously runs in the family, of course.
Yep.
But it was cool to get to see him. Every time we get to play against Seth, I wish that he was still on our team. Don't get me wrong, Anthony's looked great, but Seth was he brought a different level to that bench between him and Hood and some of those guys that we had back when we had Evan Turner. I mean, we had a probably the best bench we've had in a couple of years, and he was a huge part of it. And obviously, that's one of the biggest reasons that we made it to the Western Conference Finals. So good to see him. He didn't do too much against the Blazers. He didn't absolutely light us up, which I kind of expected him to do because he knows the guys. But that's where he's doing. Blazing new trails, Seth Curry, that's where he's at these days, in case anybody needed an update and didn't watch that game.
Yeah, he's just really good. And like you said, obviously, as far as shooting-wise, he's a savant, but he's also better than you think on the defensive end, and he gets a lot of steals, and he's really pesky for a guard of his size. I mean, he's Damian Lillard's size, but he'll give you problems when you drive on him. So I've always liked Seth, and I've always liked, kind of the little brother complex that he plays with, and he was scrappy for the Blazers, and he was a huge part of that run. So
yeah, for sure. So that brings us to the second half of the pod. We have not a decent amount of news per se. One big news thing we're going to discuss, and then we're going to kind of get into some weekly trends. Before we get into the big news, I want to continue talking about the games and the things we noticed overall. And you already touched on Anthony Simons, which has been awesome. But I also want to touch on Norman Powell. We kind of brought it up as we talked about him on an individual game basis, but over the week, he's averaged about 20 points a game. The dude looks just angry when he's out there. Yeah. I mean, I don't think we have a better rim attacker on the team. I mean, Dame is a fine finisher at the rim. CJ can finish at the rim. Both of those guys are crafty when it goes to going to the rim and getting your basket, but nobody just draws the fouls like Norman Powell. Nobody attacks and puts guys out of position like Powell does. And it's just been so freaking awesome to see. And this is the exact thing that we needed him to do because, quite frankly, Rocco isn't doing anything for us. He had a great game. Don't get me wrong. He had a great game recently against Indy, but still, I mean, he's been inconsistent. So Powell's really been that next level guy on the team because Nurk really hasn't blown us up offensively. He's not getting 20 a game. He's been okay. We've talked about him a little bit, but Powell's really been that guy to kind of anchor down the team with CJ as Dame has been going through these struggles, and a big part of why we were able to even stay close in the Cavs game and obviously win the Indy game.
Yeah, Norman Powell has been incredible night in and night out, and what can he not do? Honestly, he doesn't initiate much from the pick and roll, but he runs in transition. He plays really hard on defense. He's competitive. He drives to the rim, and when he does, he either gets to the rim, gets a decent look, or gets fouled. And he doesn't turn the ball over a lot. So, I mean, he's not initiating a ton of offense for other guys, but I just really like what he can bring. I think that he's a veteran that some of these young guys can learn from. I think Nasir Little can learn a lot from Norman Powell and what he brings night in and night out. I think Larry Nance could learn a lot about that too, because some of these young guys are inconsistent, and that's normal when you're young. But that's why you bring in Norman Powell instead of Gary Trent Jr., because Gary was really good sometimes, but he was really inconsistent. You know what Norman Powell is going to give you. He's going to give you 18 points, 2 assists, and a little bit of rebounding, not a lot. He's still undersized for his position, but he's going to be a dog on defense. He's not going to be a net negative for you on defense, so that's great. Norman Powell's been fantastic. Robert Covington had a great week shooting the ball. I mean, he didn't look great defensively early on in the road trip, but he got really hot the last 3 games shooting from 3, and he was a big kick-out option for the guards when they drove and got smothered in the lane.
Especially the Indy game, Yeah, but I mean, Powell this week specifically, I noticed a lot more of him faking the 3 and driving and getting around the defender who's running out at him.
Yeah,
he had a really nasty dunk against Indy, so he's been playing great. And while Dame has been going through the shooting slump that he's going through, it's really good to see Powell continue to do it. Yeah. And on the flip side of that, I need to see more out of Nurk. I've been so disappointed in Nurk. The Cavs game already talked about the turnovers, but I feel like Nurk to me is the most important cog in this offense because of the way that Billups wants to use him. Also, put your hat back on because your hair looks just messy. You can't be showing that to the public. There you go. Okay.
Look, man, Nurkic is stressing me out, bro. Like, you don't know what you're going to get from him night in and night out. The thing is, okay, so sometimes he comes in, sets good screens, and rolls really hard. Sometimes he doesn't put his hands out there and catch the ball when Dame kicks it to him. Sometimes he gets the ball, and then he does this weird little like one-handed flip falling down. Like, I don't know what you're trying to do with this. Sometimes he yams it really hard on his defender. I don't know what you're going to get from Nurkic. And that's probably more than anything what I think deflates this team at times. Sometimes it's shooting. Yes, Dame comes in and shoots like over 4, and it's like, oh my gosh, we might not have it tonight because Dame doesn't have it tonight. But sometimes Nurkic just looks lost out there on both ends of the floor, and it crushes these Blazers because we get down and then we can't get back into it. it's just, I don't know how to explain it, but you're right. Nurkic is way more important than the stat sheet shows, and his energy and effort are not there sometimes.
Yeah, and when I talk about how important he is as far as the system goes, I mean, we brought in specific coaches, assistants to work with him because of, Zubac and some of the other guys that these guys have played with before. But he's important because of the movement that they want to use him with. Not only passing the ball, but obviously the pick and roll game and cutting to the rim. And the ball moving itself ending up with him has been a problem. I don't know if it's just Halloween. I don't know if the guy just ate too many Butterfingers and it just stuck to him, because that's probably going to be his nickname going forward, is Butterfingers. The guy is dropping passes left and right. I mean, when he does catch it, he's finishing. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've seen him catch some passes and go to the rim and almost the Euro step for a guy his size and be able to get around and make some sweet looking layups, and that's fine. But he's becoming detrimental because he's not catching a lot of these. He's not doing it consistently, and he's causing a lot of turnovers. When we talk about the turnovers with this team, a lot of them have to do with Nurk. I will give him some credit. He hasn't been in foul trouble. I don't think he's been in any situation where he's had 5 or more fouls, at least not in close games. And that's one thing that really worried me about how he's going to play defense this year. So far, so good there. Granted, I think the defense still needs to be adjusted because we're obviously still giving up way too many easy looks at the rim. I can't tell you how many times Lamar called out how Jarrett Allen was just open at the rim. You can't let him get down to the rim. He's at the rim again, because Nurk's not there to deter that. He can get back there, but half the time he's getting back there now, he's getting there too late. It was a concern that I had at the beginning of the year. It's something to continue to watch. If he's going to go up and help with these guards and these screens, he's got to be able to get back. And I know the anti-stops people don't like the drop center look, but I'm sorry. You don't have guards that can slow it down. So if you're trying to bring him up too much and do all these different things, you got to have somebody that's down there to be able to defend the rim, and our rotations haven't looked good. So it starts with Nurk. I need to see more out of him. I know what he can do. I know that Nurk fever is still a legitimate thing. The Bosnian Beast is not just a nickname you give out lightly. So I know that the guy can get it back, but I need to see more out of him. He's been the biggest issue to me this week. He's been an issue so far this season, in my opinion. He's had some flashes, but that's been the biggest thing I've noticed this week that I need to see improve.
Yeah, Nurkic did not have a great week, I feel like, especially in the losses. And when you look at Andre Drummond, he pretty much lost that matchup. He did play well against Indiana's bigs, but Cleveland's bigs torched him. And look, on the defensive end, Nurkic is better than I thought he would be at helping with pick and roll coverage on guards, but he's nowhere near the rim protector he was like 2-3 years ago, pre-injury Nurk. He's just nowhere. Dude, how many blocks do you think he honestly has this year? Like, Nurkic is not contesting at the rim, and that may be the defensive strategy. I don't know, but even when he's got a guy like Sabonis on him one-on-one, Nurkic ain't contesting that ball. I mean, and that's, like you said, I just feel like defensively, he's not the rim protector. And if you had a guy like Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley, like I talked about earlier, they can at least play out to the perimeter one-on-one on guards. That's something Nurkic can't do either because he's too slow. So it's kind of, what are you doing for me right now? I understand that might be asking too much because you have so much money allocated to guards that you can't afford to pay a big money, big man. And I understand that. But it's still, Nurkic is not bringing it consistently at all.
No, it's something that we definitely need to see improve. It's something I'm going to be watching this week specifically. It was kind of a letdown in a lot of those early games. He got a good game against the Pacers, and he dominated the Lakers. The Lakers, I felt he should have dominated. Indy, I thought would be more of a struggle with them. I mean, don't get me wrong. Turner's an amazing stat defender. He's not the best one-on-one defender in general, and Sabonis isn't a great defender. I mean, again, he's more of an offensive big who pulls you out, and it's really scary to try to defend because he can do it in so many ways. But neither one of those guys is necessarily going to be an offensive threat. I think Turner's the biggest deal because, he can shoot. But as far as the defense goes, Nurk should have had, a much easier time getting buckets there than he did. But again, we'll see. It's only been 10 games. I'm not going to hold too much against them so far. We ended the week good, and that's all I have on that. Anything else that you've noticed, man? I mean, we've touched Anthony this week. Powell's been great. Nurk needs to do a little bit more. Dame's still shooting bad, except for the Laker game, which hopefully is a sign of things to come.
So the Dame thing, he did take 1-3 from the logo. He had a foot on the logo. I don't know if you saw it, but that was a pretty big, I think he's back 3. He didn't make it. It clanged, but it was the closest thing to like a Damian Lillard OMG 3. The other thing is CJ shooting more threes this year. He tried to increase his percentage of threes in his shot equity distribution, which is great. He's an evolving player. He still is terrible defensively, and him and Dame get absolutely fried some nights. I mean, it is so bad. And that's the thing that we've talked about year in and year out is like it's nice to have two guards that can get you 25 every night. It's fantastic. But on the defensive end, they just give up too much.
No, there's a reason Garland and Sexton did what they did against us. There's a reason, McConnell did what he did against us. I watched him give. There's a sequence in the Cavs game where I literally laughed out loud. It's like they had him on Sexton, and Sexton just went whoop right around him, just completely lost him. It was bad.
And then there was a play where a guy, I can't remember who it was, and I wish I would have wrote it down, but a guy drove on CJ, and CJ's in front of him. He shoots right over and scores no problem. The next bucket they go down, CJ tries to score on him, and he kind of blocks or steals it from CJ because he's bigger than you. And so sometimes size matters in these games. I think it was the Cleveland game because I had it written down there. But it's like, man, I mean, he just doesn't give enough defensively for you.
It wasn't the Cleveland game. I believe it was LeVert. And I remember, they said something about it in the game at the size. He's just a bigger player, and he can't slow those guys down. So that's okay. And I don't know if you heard about this or not, but the reports kind of came out that Dame has been dealing with apparently an abdominal issue that he's been dealing with supposedly for the last couple of years.
Whatever.
That's carried over into the Olympics. It's carried over now. I don't know. How much stock to put into that. It did come from Dame himself, but I don't think it's really affecting him as much. People tried to make that, well, that's obviously why he's shooting so bad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking not, personally. And I think if he was struggling and he knew he had an injury, then he probably wouldn't be taking some of the shots that he's taking. I know he feels like maybe he has to, but he doesn't. And
that's a tough position.
It's a thing to watch, because if that continues to be a thing throughout the year, if this injury, this abdominal injury keeps being a topic that comes up, it's something that they're going to try to bring up probably again if he continues to stink, to not play good. So I'm just kind of curious if you have any thoughts on that, if you've heard about that.
Well, I mean, that's something that LeBron is dealing with right now. I wish he would take time off and get healthy. I don't think that's really an option. Maybe playing in the Olympics wasn't the best call this summer because he probably needed to rest more, but whatever, that's hindsight. I just hope he doesn't use it as an excuse throughout the year. And I know Dame's not a person who makes excuses.
I don't think he will.
God. No, I'm just saying, like, the fans and the NBA media, I hope they don't use it as an excuse to say like, oh, well, the Blazers aren't going to win it all because Damian Lillard's not healthy and he doesn't look right. It's like, so Dame should rest and get healthy if he can. I mean, Anthony Simons has looked very capable on both ends of the floor so far this year. And wouldn't it be better to have a healthy Dame at playoff time and squeak in at like 7-8 seed than it would be? I mean, obviously we're not even at that point yet. But
I don't think so.
If Dame's not healthy, this team is not right. And this team will not be right.
And that I'll give you. And if he is actually hurt, he's obviously not hurt enough to not play. But what I could see them doing is really trying to limit the minutes a little bit more. If Anthony is hot, then put him out there with CJ and let Anthony run point or CJ run point. I know you want to follow certain schedules and rotations, and I understand that, but that's where I think you can limit Dame back a tiny little bit. But I don't think you miss one game, the rest here and there, fine. But I've heard some people come out and say, well, we should give him a week or a month. You can't. You're not going to be able to recover. You're not going to even probably won't even be in a spot for playoffs, especially not in the West. And quite frankly, the 7 and 8 seed is not something you should be shooting for, because that puts you in bubble territory. You have to do the stupid tournament, right? Little play-in tournament. That kills those teams, because a dumb tournament makes you have to play those extra 1-2 games. And if you have to play those extra 1-2 games and then immediately 2 days later jump into a 7-game series, I mean, look what it did to us against the Lakers. It absolutely crushed us. You don't want to be in that situation. A healthy Dame is important. Not going to argue that, obviously. But I think it needs to be managed differently. I think for now, it's more so don't put him in blowouts. If he's not shooting great and Anthony is, let Anthony play 25, 30 minutes and let Dame get more rest. If the game is still close, you can put Dame back in the closing minutes, whatever you need to do. There are ways to work guys' minutes around to slow Dame's playing time versus just having him sit and rest. Now, obviously, if this thing is a bigger concern and it becomes a situation where, he's not playing like he's supposed to, he needs to recover, we need to give him a couple of weeks, then it's an injury and you can't help that. But it's obviously not bad enough right now for him to not be playing. It wasn't bad enough to keep him out of the Olympics. I think right now and apparently it's been the last couple of years. So again, I don't know how much stock you put into that, but he was just fine last year as he was one of the league's best scorers and shooting historic numbers and multiple 60-point games and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I just kind of came up. I've heard about it. I don't mind resting him, but I don't think he needs to. If he misses big stretches in the West, especially with teams that really aren't doing. I mean, look at the teams below us, the Lakers, Memphis. There's some teams down there right now that probably aren't going to stay there, and they're going to be competitive all year, and you don't want to be in the mix with these guys going into the play-in time. So
we'll see. I agree.
Ways off, and I'm not going to worry about it too much right now. It's going to hurt.
I wouldn't vet it too much. I think that was all I had mostly. I mean, we talked a little bit about every single player. I don't feel like Nasir Little or Cody Zeller are doing enough to where like we need to have a segment on them. They're fine.
Not much else this week, at least.
Yep, not much this week. We'll see if injuries happen and they have to play bigger roles. We'll talk about it later.
Yep.
What was the other thing that popped up?
Ooh, so it's not related to players. We've talked about some player trends. But the other big news that came out this week, I'm sure everybody's heard about it by now. If you haven't, our great leader, Neil Olshey, is under investigation, not by the league, granted, but by us, the Portland Trail Blazers, and owner Jody Allen. They've opened up investigation for workplace environment misconduct, essentially. There's been rumors of intimidation, rumors of bullying, rumors of profanity being used. I think we saw a slight clip of it, the way that he treated some of the people during the Chauncey Billups situation, with not just the media, where people have talked about how he kind of sounds like a bully, the way he was shutting people up. The look that he gave that poor PR person when he drank the water bottle and he stared her down saying, "You better stop this now." Apparently, it's been going on for a couple of years. So the team has opened up an investigation. It really spurred from one employee bringing this to their attention. Some other employees have since spoken up, and now they got a firm involved to do the investigation. What have you heard so far about that?
Yeah, so it happened really late because it happened during the game on Saturday night. It happened during
before that. It happened to be I think we got the news Wednesday or Thursday, because they interviewed Thursday and Friday the former employees and current employees.
So we get notification that it's going down. I thought it was really weird that the Blazers addressed it before the investigation was even happening or completed. It was really weird. And then all of a sudden some media members are leaking out articles. Canzano's leaking something out of Oregon Live. You're hearing Jason Quick make comments on it and basically saying Yahoo. I mean, Chris Haynes is always plugged into the Blazers, but I thought it was just kind of interesting. And then, so today on Sunday, so I thought it was going to go one of two ways. Either it's going to disappear really fast and Neil's going to keep his job and everything's fine, or it's going to get drug out, it's going to get ugly, and they're going to use it as a way of firing him. And so those are really the only two paths that can go down. I mean, he could get drug out and he could save his job, but either way, he either keeps it or he loses it. And today it came out that they're interviewing. It's so bad with the current employees that they're reaching out to former employees. And now so the longer this goes, the worse it looks. I would honestly be shocked if he's not our GM by the time we record next Sunday. I would be shocked. That'd be a lot faster, because the Gruden situation with the Raiders happened really quick, but it was really ugly. This is a little more nuanced, so I don't think it's going to happen that fast. But I do think this could cost him his job. I would call it 50-50 still right now.
Yeah, things are going to probably start coming out. I've heard that they're going to wait a few weeks and get full details of the investigation. So far, there's been nothing sexual, right? No harassment, nothing like that that's been leaked, at least. It's more so a toxic environment, bullying, and things like that, which if you watch his press conferences, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, I've seen the way that he handles the media sometimes, and you're kind of like, maybe you don't talk to them like that. Jason Quick has been a victim of it a couple times, and he's probably one of the best reporters that follows the Blazers that's out there. Yeah. So kind of interesting. So let's so I know we're going to get to some hypotheticals here real quick as we kind of end the pod, but let's say that Neil goes in 2-3 weeks and this blows up and the rumors start coming out and he gets fired. Because I don't think Jody Allen would be involved like this if it wasn't serious. The fact that it's gone to the Blazers level and the team has hired a firm.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to end well, because I think there's enough evidence there for them to push forward with this. So let's say he gets fired.
Okay.
How do you think this truly affects the team? I mean, in the middle of the season with a new head coach.
Yeah. It wouldn't. So I would say that for this one season, it wouldn't change a thing. Honestly, every player we have of impact is on this roster right now. There's not going to be a trade deadline deal this year because you're healthy and because we have no salary, right? There's really no way to make a deal happen, even as big as the Norman Powell deal happened last year, because we're so strapped. So I don't think anything would happen. I don't think it would affect the team at all. I don't think it would affect Chauncey at all. I feel like he would keep his job. Year over year, the next 2 years, that would be a really drastic change. I think that you could see big changes come in when a new GM steps in, but I don't think this year it would change a thing. Do you?
Well, I'm not going to say trades aren't going to be made because I do think that with Nurk and Roko's contracts expiring, I'm going to talk more about that obviously way down the road, but I do think you're going to look at potential moves. But I do agree that I don't think it's going to be too big of a change, and mainly because in years past we would have had Paul Allen. He was heavily involved in the team. He talked with players. He had meetings with players.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one who obviously hired Neil and was involved in all that process. Jody Allen's not going to do that. I'm glad that she's stuck with this team and she goes to the games. She showed to be more of a fan and involved in. I think a lot of people thought she was going to be originally, but she doesn't have that same say. If this was Paul Allen, I think we would still see he'd probably put somebody in an interim role and he'd be running this team himself until they hired a new GM. I really believe that. I don't think that's going to happen with Jody, so I do think it's a relatively quiet rest of the season if that happens. Obviously, somebody will step up in an interim role. I don't think it changes how the team operates. I still think there's going to be potential trades. I still think they're going to look to make those moves. And whoever becomes the interim is probably going to have the best leg up, probably depending on how he handles that situation, to get the job officially come the offseason. But that's a ways off still. I mean, obviously the reports need to finish up. We don't have a lot of comments. There hasn't been anything really released outside of the fact that they're interviewing past and current employees.
I think that Candono and Quick both basically said like sometimes he's a huge jerk, and you can see that in their article or in the way that he treats them. But as far as like from employees, no, we have no idea.
Yeah, we haven't heard anything yet. So that's something to keep an eye on. Obviously, that's going to continue to advance throughout the week, and reports will probably kind of trickle out here in the next, 3, 4, 5 days or so. So obviously, it's something for us to keep looking into, and we'll keep reporting to you guys on a weekly basis. As if something breaks this week, great. If we hear anything else, we'll talk about it next week, and we're going to keep that up. But that's all we have on that right now. Not a lot of news to leak, but it's obviously something to keep your eyes on because outside of Stotts getting fired, Neil getting fired could be potentially the biggest thing that happened to this team.
That'd be huge, dude. I guarantee you the next GM would trade CJ within the next year and a half.
If not Dame. I mean, anything can happen. Even at that point, it's a complete wild card.
Yeah.
About what's going to go down. So kind of some stuff to watch that could potentially be huge franchise altering news, or it may end up being nothing. Who knows? But yeah, man, that's all I have for this week. Do you have anything else you want to touch on before we wrap up?
No, that's it. Really could use some subs and a few. Leave a comment below if there's anything that you agree or disagree with on this pod that really sticks out to you. We answer every single question, comment that we get, and follow along on Twitter. It's twitter.com/talkrip. And if you want to submit questions or DMs there, we're happy to answer any questions that people have on the pod.
Yep, for sure. Same with Instagram. I don't do much on there, but I'll post the pods and stuff on there. We can engage with you guys if you're Instagram users, not Twitter. But yeah, I mean, obviously subscribe. We're still trying to hit that 500 number. We're going to give you guys free stuff if you do. I mean, we want to give it to you. We're here to provide. Next week, obviously, we're going to be doing the drawing. I'm going to start coming up with the contest for this game the Celtics game, the tickets to the game for the Celtics. I already have the tickets, like I said, so that's available. When transferring with somebody, we have a way to win that. So keep sharing us out there, spread the word so you can get more people involved. It helps you out, helps us out. We appreciate the support so far. Pod's continuing to grow. We're continuing to engage. We love it. We're working on having some other guests get on here soon. We try to do at least one a month to get somebody from the media or somebody from the Blazers side that you guys like to hear from, to join Decker, Dia, Danny, all those great guests that we've had so far. That's really it. That's all we have this week. I hope you guys, continue to support us and have a good rest of your week, and the holidays are starting. So
heck yeah.
All
right, everybody, we out.
We out.